Introducing the Poet Life Podcast. Go check it out today on your favorite platforms, including iTunes, Apple Music, and the website, thepoetlife.com.
Find a way, find a way.
Hey, it's Christoph Wrights of the Poet Life Podcast, and I am truly excited to have brother Patrick Washington back on to the Poet Life Podcast. He was on the episode with the Youth Poet Laureate of Prince George's County, Maryland, Saini Cisse, and he was pretty much like the chaperone, if you will. And but on a serious note, like a mentor professor in poetry, and I'm excited to have a conversation with you, sir. How are you?
No, I'm blessed, Christoph. Great to be here with you, man. And yeah. We definitely need to chop it up, beyond the cameras and all this stuff.
Exactly.
So we'll make that happen.
Yeah, welcome back to the show, man.
Thank you.
So I hinted to, because we didn't go into your background, right? I wanted to make sure that we focused on Saini Cisse that episode. We also had Neville Adams on, the legend, and so we'll get to him as well very, very soon. So, but here we're talking to you right now, man. Talk to me about your background and take whatever angle you see fit, man. Talk to me about your background. Where in the world did poetry come in for you?
Yeah, it came in pretty early for me. I remember as a child getting, those children's books. And I was a great fan of the rhyme. I was a great fan of the wordplay. I wouldn't be the only one to say Dr. Seuss was my dude early on. As I got older, I discovered this thing called hip hop, and initially that is how I started my journey with the word. I was a rapper. I had been in several groups. My best friend Anton and he was the gangster. His name was Gangster Hip Hop. That was his name. And mine was, and then he named me Black Picasso back in the day. Which I carry to this day. So we did that, and we kind of went in and out to all the little local festivals. Telling mom I'm going to be a rapper, and mom telling me, go mow the lawn. Just do what you do.
Right.
But eventually, what happened with me was, I think I became disillusioned with hip hop because at a certain I was not a gangster. I was not a hardcore kid. I'm a suburban kid, from around the way, and all the popular rappers were becoming these gun toting, you know what I'm saying? It was like they all had the Carhartts and the boots and they're just saying things that were foreign to me, so I didn't think it was for me. So I kind of stepped away from rapping and I started writing poetry about rap. I started writing about hip hop. I started, and I wasn't just an MC. I practiced all of the elements. So I was, a b-boy also, and I did graffiti art. So I was really into it, and so I could write about those things that I knew, and that is when people began to respond to me.
Got it.
And so that is kind of where I discovered that, okay, maybe there's not that much of a difference.
Yeah.
And so that was the beginning of my journey.
Got you. Okay. So you wrote poetry about rap. So you were like a poetic journalist.
Yeah. I was writing about, my favorite rappers. I was writing poems in the style of some of my favorite rappers too.
Ah.
So I have several poems that were kind of like in the style of the early Q-Tip, Chuck D, was my man. So I had poems in that style. I was very larger than life, and that is where my performance poetry kind of caught on.
Got it.
Because I was really giving it up on stage, not like the average poet.
Okay. So you quickly took to the stage, yes, or you were a stage poet at first?
Yeah. I found, and then I took my my talents to like a various little open mics. I just started scouring for open mics. Looked in the Washington Post, and there was a story about this guy named DJ Renegade. And he's a legend here now. His real name is Joel Diaz Porter, but it was an interesting story, and it was telling a story about this guy who was essentially homeless by choice. He stayed in the shelter during the day, and he made his money going to poetry slams and just winning, all these poetry slams. And it was stories about him going to the nationals. And he went to nationals, and it was like, oh, I'm about to make this, and he lost by 1 second. I think he went a second overtime and then lost. So it was just a really compelling story. I fell in love with the idea, and I began to seek this dude out. I started going to open mics looking for Renegade, because he said he's from DC. So I started looking for Renegade, and eventually I found him, but I also found a bunch of other poets. That's when my world opened up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Got you. So when you found him, what happened then? Did you have a conversation with him? Did you ask him the questions that you wanted to ask him when you were looking for him?
I was no, he treated me like I was a snot-nosed little, brat. Yeah, it was like, get out of here, kid. He was a disciplined writer. He was part of a crew of really disciplined, terrific, phenomenal writers, and they put in the work. Every line was meticulously crafted, and then they would go back and edit. They were those types of writers. He's part of that crew. He had a family of those people, and I was not of that. I was not of that vein.
Right.
I was very much into freestyling. Whatever I say is how I felt at the time, and that is, once it's gone, it's gone. You know what I mean?
Right.
Once I write it, I'm not going back because I got more to say. So that was, and so yeah. So while I found my poetic scene, it was very fractured because those great writers were on one side, and then myself and a bunch of other young snot-nosed kids were on the other side. So we all, but the thing is, we all loved each other, but it was just that I realized that I'm not like him, and I don't know if I'm ever going to be that type of poet.
I see.
You know what I mean? So
yeah. Okay. So when that revelation came about, where did it take you mentally and journey-wise?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard thing when the people you look up to don't return the love. Luckily, like I said, I found people who did love what I did. But I was always pining for, to be recognized by those other folks because they were so good. And honestly, it helped make me a better writer and performer because I learned that great artists take a little bit from everybody anyway. So I don't have to be totally like Renegade, but I took little things from him. I took little things from this MC named Priest. I took little things from my partner DP. Various things from these, different influences, and then created my own style. So
I see. Okay. So around this time, how old are you?
Oh, by then, I was kind of a late bloomer. So I would say I was in my mid to late 20s by then.
Okay.
Yeah. I was in my mid to late 20s. when I realized that I'm a poet. Like I'm actually a poet. It took a while. Yeah. So I didn't realize when I was a teenager. I didn't realize it in my early 20s. But when did I realize? That's a good question. When did I realize that I was a poet?
I think that's a question a lot of people need to ask themselves.
Yeah. I mean, I always said that I wanted to be a rapper, and then eventually I realized that my rap was poetry. But when I decided to call myself a poet, oh man, it probably has something to do with a woman, probably.
That's where it starts.
It's a lot of my major decisions were estrogen influenced. So.
Yeah, I do remember those times.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So let me ask you this question, right? If you could teach a class, and you probably do already, but if you could teach a class based off your experience and your journey in the poetry industry, what would your angle be?
Okay.
What angle would you take?
One of two angles. It's twofold. The one would be to prepare yourself as a business. Realize that your art is valuable, and that you don't want to waste it. You don't want to waste your time on people who are entertaining you as a valuable artisan. And so in as such, you want to take care of your business, handle certain things. You want to understand that when somebody approaches you, you need to know, okay, this is my quote, this is what I offer, and be just that whole idea of an elevator pitch. You want to be able to tell them very quickly and succinctly what I do, what I have to offer. I hope you like it. Here's my information. You don't want to say, oh yeah, I just vibe and I just do what I do, and that's not going to get anybody to call you back. It's not going to anybody, you know what I mean? So know what you're offering, know how to explain it, and then from there, there's how to get booked. And once you get booked, what to look for. You want to know who you're performing for, and know your audience, how much time you have, things like that, your surroundings, the sound, the lighting, all of those things, any limitations on what I can and can't say, all of those things. So that helps, your brand, it helps your business, it helps the poet life, right?
Right.
So that's one thing. The other thing, which it took me a while to realize, was that I was creating a program that helped kids in three facets: expression, accountability, and healing. Expression, accountability, and healing. And the idea is, like, with expression, there are certain things that a kid or a poet, let me stop saying kid, because no matter your age, you need to know these things. So,
right.
Understanding that not all poetry rhymes.
Right.
You want to be able to identify metaphors and similes. You should have been able to attend a venue and experience what that vibe is like. Have knowledge of the poetry greats. Be able to identify some of their pieces. Things like that. Those are the basics in expression. With accountability, that's more personal, and you would want to be able to see and identify your choices. You want to be able to create a network of people around you. All right, for feedback. That helps make you accountable. You want to be able to document your own progress, and you want to be able to ID who your mentors are and utilize their wisdom and what they have to say.
Right.
So that, and then the final facet would be healing. And I think that a poet or listener should have the ability to listen to a story, not just hear it,
Mm-hmm.
give feedback on what they heard, be able to tell that story clearly, if they needed to retell it, be able to reflect on what they heard and see how it connects to your life or those around you. And I think that those three facets kind of help make you a better person. And although it's not a particular accredited, type thing that you can really grade, I think it's a rubric, and it's something that people can use as a as a map.
Question.
Yeah.
You have me thinking now. With all of what is happening in the poetry world, right? The Brandon Leaks winning America's Got Talent, Amanda Gorman, the inauguration, Amanda Gorman, NFL Super Bowl performance coming up next month, right? I can see it clearly. It's like a phoenix rising, right? And my question is, with the trajectory of where poetry is going, I want to ask you, can you see universities, high schools, taking on poetry and the arts as a degree?
Yes. Short answer is yes. Boom. Absolutely. My daughters told me that immediately after Amanda Gorman's performance, her teachers made her poem an assignment. They printed it up,
there you go.
Dispersed it to the students, had them break it down, talk about the lines, identified, the different mechanics of the poem. Oh, was there alliteration, the metaphors, the similes, what I mean? And what did it mean? What did it mean to you? And they had that discussion. So yes, so automatically, poetry can be powerful. It can be, definitely can be used, in the educational realm. And there, if I'm not mistaken, there is, there are a couple of degrees, a couple of universities that offer some form of poetry and degree. I think there's a program from out of the University of Wisconsin.
Okay.
Called First Wave. That's a long time program. It's been going on for almost 10 years now, or maybe more. And they give degrees in the performance arts, like the stage arts, the elements of hip hop and poetry. So it's happening. It's happening slowly but surely.
Wow. Yeah. No. So I'm glad I asked that, because we're gearing up to pitch to universities and to offer curriculum to universities. And
perfect time,
man. Perfect time. So where are you in education and poetry? I know you're heavily engulfed in it right now. You work with some students. I mean, hence Saini Cisse. So tell me about your program.
Yeah, so Dialect of Prince George's is a leadership through the arts program.
Right.
Yeah, so we are teaching leadership abilities to, these kids already have the abilities, but we're teaching leadership mechanics, and we're helping them just be better with in terms of their activism and their expression to their peers. We give them exercises, like we'll ask them like what type of where are you in terms of your activism? Are you a litigator? Are you a teacher? Are you a reporter? Are you a collector of information?
Right.
Are you the advocate? Because everybody has a role to play.
Right.
So in as far as education, that's the type of thing that I like to, do, and it's it's been valuable to them. They use those skills in interviews. They use them for for their public speaking, of course, and it's got them some gigs. I got a couple of internships,
Nice.
out of it. So that's my thing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I like the approach you took. It looks like you went straight to the county, the school board, the school system. How did you work that out? Like, you have Prince George's County and Montgomery County, Maryland. How did that happen?
So the dialect program is specifically geared towards Prince George's County. And that's where I was raised, and that's where after years and years of performing in DC and traveling the country repping for DC, but I'm really a county boy. And once I got grown, I was like, well, I got a family here in PG, so let me focus on where my kids are growing up.
Right.
And so that is when I decided to create a dialect of Prince George's. It is a LLC, and it's not a nonprofit.
Got it.
And that's important to say, because nonprofits get a lot of love, they get a lot of consideration, and things certain things handed to them or afforded to them.
Right.
It's a little tougher for LLC.
It is.
But that's okay, because what I've done is I partner. I'm great at partnerships and collaborations. It's my lifeblood. So I partner with people like Neville Adams, who has a nonprofit, right? And so he and we partner up. We do things together. I realized that depending on what I need, then I'll go for certain organizations. If I needed corporate sponsorship, right? Then I'll fill out whatever forms I need to and talk to folks. But I'll have my friends at Creative Suitland, maybe because they're connected to, they're getting sponsorships, and so maybe I'll have them co-sign, on whatever my request is, so like I never walk in the door cold. I'm going in with, hey, I'm good friends with Brooke Kidd over at Joe's Movement Emporium. I'm good friends with, friends of also Brooks, at which you as you saw, I will utilize those connections. And so it's all about just networking and then making the most of those. I think I've gotten pretty good at that, and that's how I get what I need.
Okay. Got it. Is your background in poetry an incentive to the people that you partner with? Right.
It was early on.
Okay.
I'm just the old guy now. I'm the old poet. I'm not the hot poet. I was a hot poet for a couple of years early on, but now. The reputation doesn't precede me like it used to, but it's all good,
I see. Are you still writing?
Yeah, I am. It's a lot harder. It's a lot harder for me. It's kind of like a door, and I can only walk into one door at a time. I can walk into the business door and handle my my obligations there. I can walk into my fatherhood door and do that, and my 9 to 5, which I'm about to give up soon. Can't wait for that. But so each door, once I'm in that door, then I'm there, and it's hard for me to get creative. So long story short, when I get creative, then I'm in my zone and I can do that. But it's rare for me to do that for too long, because then I got these other things pulling me out.
Right. What can poets do as it relates to partnerships, no matter what age they are? Like, what can they do, and how can they link up with the city and the county and put projects on, to assist in community service or whatever is needed in the area. What do you think that an individual poet can do to make a difference in that way?
A couple of things. First, find out who your representatives are. Find out who your councilman representatives are. Find out who your state representatives are, and reach out to them. You don't have to be a ambassador, poet ambassador, or whatever. These people work for you, so you're supposed to let them know what you need where you are anyway. You're supposed to do it. Rarely does it happen. It's a quick, Google search. Put in your address, your zip code. They'll pop up with the names. The emails will be right there. Shoot them a letter. Shoot them a poem saying, "Hey, this is how I feel about A, B, or C." Let them know in the way that makes you comfortable. Right. So that's one. Also, if there's a certain issue that you feel strongly about, and I have my kids do this, that's another Google search. You're going to look up, you may look up teen pregnancy. You may look up, gang involvement, gang mediation, whatever your issue may be. Look it up. You'll get a link to organization, a person, or whatever. Reach out to that person. Say, hey, when are your meetings? When, are you coming around my way? How can I meet you? Do you need a poem to help promote your cause?
Right.
You got to be original with it.
So it sounds like to me you're saying, ask yourself how you can add value to the city or the county, and then reach out to those people and say, I guess, how can I, or find out what that thing is, whether it's using your poetry to make a difference, and then reach out to your constituent. What do they call it? Your public.
Yeah, your representatives,
right? And so, because you don't want to go to their office and just ask for what you want, and you don't have anything to offer yourself, right?
I mean, all you have to offer is yourself and your art, if that's what you're. And it's honestly, this isn't even an artistic thing. This is a human thing. This is so you don't have to be an artist necessarily. If you just want to volunteer. I have a lot of poets who are like, okay, yeah, I'm involved with this, this issue or whatever, and I go out and I volunteer. I go to the food trucks, and I'm helping them load up, helping people, load, their goods and canned goods and stuff like that. So it has nothing to do with their artistry. It's their heart. And those are the type of people that we need, in the program. I
see. Okay. Where do you see it going? Where do you see dialect poets going?
I see it eventually. One day I'm going to let it go, and it's going to, hopefully it'll be self-sustaining. It'll be, with a larger organization. I don't think dialect is going to, well, let me back up. I think that dialect, I don't know about dialect, but I know that the Youth Poet Laureate program specifically is not going anywhere.
Got it.
So that is what I hope, continues in perpetuity. That's the word. Yeah. That's, I hope that, once, I get old and decide to move to Florida to a farm, then somebody else or an organization will pick it up and just keep it going. Dialect is me. I think that's going to go wherever I go. So
that's good.
Matter of fact, I made sure of it, because when I registered it, it's dialect of Prince George's County doing business as Dialect USA doing business as Dialect of Prince George's County.
Nice, nice.
You know what I mean?
So if other counties and cities reached out to you, you'd be open to expanding it to where it's. So let me take a step back. Is the Youth Poet Laureate program under Dialect PG Poets?
Okay, so let me back up. Yes, the Youth Poet Laureate program is owned by an umbrella organization called Urban Word New York.
Got it.
Urban Word New York. Great dude named Michael Sorelli, Mahogany Brown, Camilla Davis is great people over there. And they had the template. It started with them several years ago with the first Youth Poet Laureate, Ramia, forget her last name, but she was the New York Youth Poet Laureate, and she performed at Mayor Bill de Blasio's inauguration. She went viral off of that. And
really?
Then they realized they had something.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did was they offered the template of their program to anybody who wanted to, do it in their own area. So at that point, about 6 or 7 cities across the country began, took the template and started their own YPLs. And I was one of them, although I was the only one that was not a city. I chose PG County because, there is an organization called Words, Beats, and Life.
Right.
They had DC's Youth Poet Laureate. They took DC's, and since I couldn't take DC's, I took PG counties.
Got it.
So that's how that happened. And the funny thing is, I worked for Words, Beats, and Life also as a contractor. I worked for them for many years as a teaching artist.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had such a good relationship with their CEO, Mazi Mutafa. Shout out to him. We kind of worked hand in hand, and a lot of what he did was the incubator for how my program grew, because WBL is they got, I'm not gonna say they're caked up, but yeah, he helped me out. Right. He helped me out a lot.
Taught you the game.
Yeah. And that's part of that partnership thing I was saying, networking, partnership. And we're such great friends, and we work so well together now. WBL has expanded the YPL program. So they have DC, and they are currently starting Montgomery County and Arlington. Those youth poet, those two, Montgomery County and Arlington, are having their finals February 28th, Sunday, February 28th. So they got 3 YPL programs. I got my one.
Right.
But watch this. They just hired me as their director of poetry.
Wow.
So now I got all 4. So what and not that I own all 4, but I am overseeing all 4 programs.
I need you to make that connection, man. I'm not trying to get a poet laureate, anything, but I want to get those folks on the podcast so they can share their story.
Okay. I got you.
I literally just learned about poet laureates last year.
Okay.
The
idea of a laureate is kind of weird, because it doesn't necessarily mean that you're greater or better than anybody else.
Sure.
What it does, the word laureate just adds a air of importance to the word. You know what I mean? The idea of poetry, right? Poetry, it gives recognition to us as poets.
Right.
And so when a laureate gets to shine, we all get to shine.
Sure. So they're considered like the resident poet of that county or city, or
the representative. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So we're taking applications right now for Montgomery County and Arlington until the end of the month. So the 31st is when the submission period ends, and then I'll start interviewing, and we'll grade the applications, we'll score the interviews, and then we'll come up with our finalists.
What's the age range? Is it just high school?
13 to 19.
Okay, so they can actually be in college.
Yeah, or middle school if you're good enough. Marissa, Michelle, last year's Prince George's County Laureate. She is 16 now. She's 16 now. She became an ambassador at 13, I believe.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow, that is great training, man. That is great training. So when these ambassadors and youth poet laureates start receiving calls and DMs about performing here and writing custom poems for this event, that event, what's your role?
Just to guide them in their creative, in the creation of their poems, help them kind of stay on track, because they write all kinds of poems. They can write observational poems, ironic poems, freestyle, but sometimes they need a little help in kind of focusing. So I help them with their focus. I help them with lots of prompts. We give them exercises weekly. What else? We're doing lots of. I help them create EPKs, electronic press kits, and we create after they identify who their representatives are. They have to write a letter to those representatives. So Marissa had to write a letter to the mayor of Bowie.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Or anybody, who you want. It doesn't have to be a official. It could be just somebody who you want to contact, somebody you think needs a youth voice in their organization. So it's teaching them to be bold in their art. That's one of the main things I want them to do.
Yeah. What was the direction in that letter? What was the purpose?
Oh, well, it's an introductory letter. Hi, I am Marissa Michelle. I am the 2020 YPL. Here's a little personal thing about me. I am interested in issues of, crime. I'm interested in issues of blank, 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 and blank in my community. I would love to meet you one day and talk about ways we can collaborate. Here's my contact information. Here's a YouTube clip, things of that nature. So it's basically introductory, kind of getting the foot in the door and just learning how to approach officials.
I see. That's good. That's good training.
Yeah.
That's good training. So they know out the gate that they have the capability and the affordability to actually reach out directly to those persons of that stature.
Yeah. I want them to be comfortable. I don't. You have your young kids, so that. I don't know if you've done this, but when you go to a store and it's like, okay, I'm going to give you the money here. You go walk up there and buy it. Or you just teach them how to approach adults.
Right.
How to walk up and say, "Hi, I'm here to purchase this. Thank you very much." I want to the same thing. Just to just on a larger scale. I want them to know how to speak to administrators and officials. How to realize the power in their voice. Understand that they are an activist and an advocate for somebody else. People who can't talk, people who don't have that voice, people who can't do what they're doing. So I want them to understand they're speaking for others.
Gotcha. Wow. So you've been doing this, or the Youth Poet Laureate program has been in existence for 6 years, right?
Yes. Yeah, this is our 6th year.
So where is the first Youth Poet Laureate. What is this person doing right now? Are you all still connected? I just want to kind of see the trajectory of that person. I don't know if it's a
Right,
man or
right,
woman.
male or female, right? Yeah, it was yes, young sister. Yeah, Dominique Holder. She's the first one, and she moved to North Carolina. She went to college in North Carolina for a while, and I believe she's back now after graduating. I don't know. I haven't spoken to her, and that's a good point. Let me just say that this has not been easy for me, and it was a learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
I fell a lot. I failed a lot in several different ways. Not being able to deliver on certain promises.
Mm-hmm.
I created this whole idea of a YPL early on, like, hey, if you become YPL, this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and you could be reading for the president. Like, you could be like this. I was giving them Amanda Gorman dreams early.
Right.
But it doesn't work like that, especially when I've got an LLC, don't even have my foot in the schools, and you know what I mean. This was really a issue of trial and error, a lot of error. So basically, what I'm saying is that I probably disappointed my first couple of Youth Poet Laureates.
I see.
By offering more than I delivered. Much love, that we still got love for each other. Some of them still contact me. I know the number 2, number 3, one of them moved off to Wisconsin. Yeah. And but yeah, so I think that I've gotten better though,
Sure.
as the years have gone. So I think I'm these last 3 or 4, they're my heart, and they are always around. They're always coming back. And I tell them, once you're a laureate, you're always a laureate.
I see.
So.
Right. No, I can relate, man. I think a lot of people can relate to that. I mean, you don't know everything when you first start. You would like to know or think that you do, but I can appreciate your transparency and your honesty, and I'm sure those poet laureates can as well. And I would imagine soon they'll be watching and say, I did receive a lot. He may not even know as much, but that's exciting, man, because just with the type of training, what it sounds like they're getting, I can see that, the confidence that they're building can really take them pretty far in life. Not to say it'll take them to major stages and things of that nature, but just the confidence, the self-esteem, the know-how to speak up for themselves and others. That's huge, man.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I want them to just recognize, the power in their voice.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can relate because, with Poet Life Academy, we go into several schools each year and teach kids how to express themselves using poetry. Yeah. So I know exactly what you're saying. So so you said you're retiring soon from the 9-to-5 world, man. So what are your plans? What are you planning on transitioning to?
I'm I'm transitioning a month from now.
Okay.
I will be a gentleman artist full time. But
what's that mean to me? What's that mean?
Yeah, I will be writing my behind off. All right, personally, okay. I'm going to get all the stuff out that I've been dying to release artistically. I've been saving up anecdotes from my job, my 9-to-5, for over 15 years. So I think I'm going to put together a screenplay.
Nice.
And if I haven't said it out loud, my 9-to-5 was an emergency dispatcher.
Oh,
So
really?
I was a emergency dispatcher for PG County for 30 years.
Really?
So I've seen and heard it all. I've delivered babies. I've listened to people take their last breaths. I have, I've dispatched for some really, crazy situations. So I have a lot of stories to tell.
So you gonna tell me this at the close of the episode, man? I should have opened with that. Why I've always wanted to talk to somebody in your seat, in your shoes.
Yeah.
Like how do you house all of that here? Like that's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot, man. They
30
train
years
us. Say what?
for 30 years?
30. They have trained me, man, to separate yourself. You have to separate yourself from the job as much as possible. Move on to move on to the next call, because there's always a call coming in, and somebody's always going to need you, and you have to, you got to do that. You got to be there for them. So yeah.
So where and how do you find peace
The
when
art, man.
for you might have gotten like 10 calls today of somebody screaming a possible death, and how did
Yeah. How do I cope? The art. The
wow.
art. You know what I mean? The poetry was always there. I spend 12 hours a day sitting in there listening to other people's complaints. It's not a job where you hear good news, so it's
Right.
always bad news, and there's always talking. So I'm talking. I get off work, I don't want to say a word, and I don't. A lot of times I don't care who's with me. I don't feel like talking. But I'll write. I'll go sit down and I'll write, kind of process whatever happened. If it was, anything heavy. But but the poetry's always been there, and it's not just because of the things that happen on the other end of the phone.
Right.
Things happen in the office too. You got to keep in mind, I've been working with law enforcement, so I've heard some things in the office that I hope I never have to hear again. You know what I mean? You can imagine.
Right.
So a very conservative, right wing, type place.
Right.
So yeah, I got a lot to process. So it's coming out. It's coming out very soon.
That's what I was about to ask. Where's the book?
The screenplay, man, it's gonna be a stage. It's gonna be a one-man show.
Let me ask you, you have experience in acting and stage play?
A little bit.
Really?
Yeah. I've done some theater. I've participated in the Hip Hop Theater Festival a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Camilla Forbes, who now runs the Apollo Theater, good friend of ours here on the U Street scene.
Okay.
She encouraged my partner, Daryl Perry, Natural Law, and I to write a show, because we had some really dynamic, presence. So she was like, you need to write something, and we were in a really good place. He just had his first kid. I had my first kid. He was getting married and stuff like that. So it was a perfect time for us to kind of write a poem. It was called Grown Folks, about what happens to hip hop when it grows up.
Right.
That was about 10 years ago. So we things like that. I've done some plays with actor friends of mine, collaboration. So I've got a little bit of theater experience.
Okay, awesome. One last question for you, man. I want to ask you this: where can poetry take people? Right? Looks like it's taking you to the stage play. It's taking you to educating the youth. Where do you think? Where are the different paths that poetry can take people that they might not even know it can take them?
I think you have to know your path. You have to know your strengths. Poetry, it can only enhance what you already are, where you're going. I wouldn't call it an end all to be all.
Right.
by any means. It is a tool to help you get to where you need to be. So, finding yourself is important. The poetry can help you find yourself.
Sure.
Yeah, it can help you find yourself. It's a great, source of therapy, catharsis, or whatever. But once you get all that out, you figure out where you're going, what your being is, then you can use your poems to kind of steer you toward. It might steer you in a literary position, it might steer you in a professional position, administrative wise, you
Right.
might, like you might be an administrator running a program, you might be a teaching artist, you might just be a performer, it might take you backstage, you know what I mean? But the poetry is a tool to help you get to where you need to go.
Got it. Man, Patrick, I really appreciate you coming on to the Poet Life podcast, man. The information that you imparted on our listeners and viewers and readers for our blog is immense, and I really appreciate the time that you're carving out on Thursday, on a Thursday night, man, during the week, and I know you have a lot to look forward to tomorrow as a dispatcher. You know what I mean?
No doubt.
How do you center yourself going in? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like in the morning, you woo-sa in the morning. Like, what's your routine?
well, I mean, right now, this is tea, but coffee. Coffee has saved many lives. I'll just say that.
Wow. Look, everybody, it's Patrick Washington of Dialect PG Poets. Where can they find you?
You can find me at by my name on Facebook. I'm very easy to find, Patrick Washington. There's only one other one. He's a football player, so hey. Or you can look me up on the website, dialect-usa.com, or Black Picasso at Gmail.
Awesome. Good stuff, man. You all know where to find Patrick Washington. Please reach out to him, connect with him. He's doing a lot of amazing things. He's taking the youth to higher heights. Look up Saini Cisse. She is the newest PG County Youth Poet Laureate. And matter of fact, check out the previous, a couple episodes back. Was it previous? Yeah. Check out her episode. Amazing information from Miss Saini, inspiration as well. And look, we're going to let you all go tonight, but we really appreciate everyone listening and watching. Patrick, if you could leave something with the people, what would it be?
I would leave them with possibilities. Embrace the possibilities and personify the possibilities. Bring them to life.
Ooh, okay, yeah, that's good. Become an example. Yes. It's the Poet Life podcast. Thank you all for listening. Go to thepoetlife.com to check out all of what we have going on. If you need more information about what we're doing, just go to that website, thepoetlife.com. If you need some gear, Poet Life gear, go to poetlifegear.com. We're doing a lot of things.
Oh, yes, I need a shirt.
We got you. We're going to start this new thing where all of our guests get some gear, man. So I got you. We're going to connect and everybody listening. You see that? Did you hear that excitement? I want you to go to poetlifegear.com and get you some wear, man. And the question is, who knows you're a poet? If it's only your family and friends, you need to be wearing something that says you're a poet. All right. We have free car magnets, bumper magnets. So the folks following you, they'll know that you're a poet. All right. So go to thepoetlife.com. We had a great night. Everybody listening and watching, y'all have a good night as well. Patrick Washington, thank you so much.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate you, man.
All right, have a good night. All right.
Much love.
My man.
Introducing the Poet Life Podcast. Go check it out today on your favorite platforms, including iTunes, Apple Music, and the website, thepoetlife.com.
Find a way, find a way. Ain't got no time now. You on the way, I'm doing fine now. Out of my business. Find a way, find a way.